Good evening, everyone. Joining us for our special project case study webinar this evening. Absolutely delighted you could join this. Uh, I think it's a special webinar. I think I call these special because it's a chance to learn. It's a chance to ask questions of a proper property professional, and therefore it's special. So, Ella, absolutely delighted to have you on once again. Ella Hardy from Land Profits. How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Looking forward to sharing this again.
Yeah, I absolutely. You were saying you've had a busy
Yeah.
week with some staff sort of off and for different reasons, and you've had a lot of things to do the last week and a half.
Kids' birthday, staff off, 21 sites in planning. Just a little bit tired.
Very good. And it's
Yeah.
only Monday. It's
And
only
it is
Monday.
only Monday, yeah.
Have a conversation on Friday afternoon to see if you're still got probably matchsticks in
Yeah.
your eyes, trying to keep it together.
I just keep hoping I take 10 days off from the 3rd of April, so I'm just counting down the days to the 3rd of April to have a good time off with the kids.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, look, let's get straight into it. And again, thank you everyone that's joined, taking the time to tune in here tonight. It will be recorded, so we do encourage questions and participation if you put it into the Q&A. Don't use the chat box, stick it into the Q&A. That way, Ella and I can keep an eye on it and try and make sure we answer every question that comes in. If for some reason there's too many and we don't get a chance in the time allowed, we can certainly follow up then by email and make sure any question that's asked gets an answer. So say it is recorded. Please do put your questions in the Q&A. We won't read anyone's name out because it is recorded, just in case you want a bit of anonymity. No problem whatsoever. And with that, let's get straight into this. So say this is a project case study webinar. It's very much designed to be educational and I will let Ella introduce herself. All I will say is that Brenda has coined Ella as the golden girl of property planning uplift. So, with that introduction, Ella, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So yeah, thank you very much, Brenda, for that. My name's Ella Hardy. I am the co-founder of Land Profits alongside my other half, Phil. We have been running Land Profits. We're currently in our fifth year now. We've built a planning uplift pipeline of £20 million. We've got 21 sites currently in planning or pre-planning, another 35 in legals, which means I'm very, very busy. Not only that, I do run the education sector to my business, of where I personally mentor all of my partners that I work with that want to grow a land business, and I invest in all of their sites too. So that's how I'm able to achieve the 21 sites currently in planning, is because I'm JVing with all of my partners. I've been doing this for 11 years. I've done nothing else from college. Um, I've just done property as an estate agent and been a land buyer since I was 19, which is quite a few years ago. I wish it wasn't, but it was quite a few years ago. Um, so yeah, other than that, I think that's kind of an intro about me. Is there kind of anything I needed to add to that, David, that you can
No,
think
I think I suppose it's just highlighting the fact that you do kind of have two sides to your business. You've got an education arm and you run events and I think you enjoy mentoring and training people in planning, but then alongside that, you actually do the hard graft of projects and I think
of?
some
Yeah,
development as well and things like that. So it's kind of like a two-pronged service delivery that you have.
it is a two. It is technically two companies, and we do run them as two different companies. We've got the land side of the business, and then we've got the education side of the business. So yeah, it's mainly overseeing all of that and just managing my partners that I work with now. Is pretty much what I do day to day.
Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, so for those of you that are on here quite regularly on these, we try and keep these around about 30 minutes. So we've done sort of 4 or 5 minute intro there. So what we're going to do is quite high level run through a real project. And one of the reasons we do these is that it's really easy for developers and for those involved in the property business to pick a project that went really well 5, 10 years ago, show all the numbers and really not get into the reality of what's happening now in the market. So what Ella has kindly agreed to do is take a project that is real, that is live right now. So Ella and her team are right in the middle of this project. They're dealing with the issues as they arise. They're dealing with the market as it arises and the current climate. So this is a really good way of sort of looking in under the hood, to use an American expression, taking a bit of a long screwdriver, getting into the engine and asking Ella questions, letting her describe the project. So if you have a question, by all means, get it into the Q&A and we can put it to Ella. So Ella, explain this project. It's live, it's ongoing. What is it?
Okay, yeah, what is it? So it's a potential development and planning uplift in Wooler, which is in Northumberland in the northeast. We are going in for planning very soon on this particular project. I think I'm going to be running you through like the unit sizes and what's going on there. But yes, we will be submitting planning in the next 4 to 6 weeks, really. And the gross development value of this site is 3.6 million. We are investing around about £75,000, £75,000 being worst case scenario. And how we've purchased this site is through an option agreement. So that's kind of a quick overview of the site.
Yeah, probably a good time just to pause there for anyone who's perhaps new to sort of planning uplift. An option agreement. Just explain that sort of briefly as to what is that and why is it so valuable when it comes to planning uplift, please.
It's really funny. This question is like indented into my brain that I've repeated this so many times, but mainly when I was like talking to landowners. So an option agreement is a legally binding contract which ties you into the title of the property for an X amount of period of time. So what that means is that I can say, right, I'm going to purchase your land and this is the price that I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to pay that price once I get planning in 12 months time or 18 months time. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's an option agreement. So pretty much means that you will pay for it once it gets planning.
Yeah, but it also means you've got the site secured then that you effectively have legal control of the site, which I think is always
Yeah,
like the other side of that coin
yeah.
is that there, which is so important. Brilliant. Okay, and the actual location then is right up. I was actually surprised how close it was really to Edinburgh, given how much the north of England goes up on the right hand side. So I was quite taken aback by that. But you're right up in the north of the northest of England.
Yeah, right up there. I've got quite a few sites. We've got some in Durham, Newcastle, York. I've got four in York, one in Leeds. So I'm quite heavy in the northeast. Bearing in mind I am from Hampshire, so
But yeah,
I'm right,
a
right
bit different.
down.
And the red line there on the picture on the right, that is the actual site, just right on the edge of the town village. I mean, what's rough population of Wooler?
I'm not spring that on me, David. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I think is it village size or town size?
Yeah, it's a village size,
It's a
I'd
village
say.
size, so you're
Yeah,
probably talking whatever 30, 40,000 people type, quite small. So you're right on the edge of it. And obviously
yeah.
with really good views out into the sort of the countryside around. Fantastic. So you've obviously had a look at this. You feel there is an opportunity, as the big word says on the screen. So like what was it about this site that you thought, yeah, this makes sense? Can you sort of give an idea
Yeah,
of
so
your process into that?
Wooler itself, obviously, you can see that the site itself from the straight red line there. I like your squiggly one from the one before. That one is a straight red line.
Yeah.
Out you can see from the title that we're only using a small portion of the site. That's because we want it to fit within the development boundary, or the development envelope that we currently have. They are lacking on their 5 year housing supply and they are in need of housing, and for new homes of this type to be built. So that's really what attracted us to the site. I mean, it does have a development opportunity for more units, but we want to keep it less risky and go for the eight for now.
Yeah, okay. And obviously, as part of that, you've done some research into Wooler itself, looking at things like property prices and demand have you got like a criteria you need to tick so many boxes to kind of make it viable, or what's the process to making that decision of yeah, there's an opportunity here?
I mean, we go through a pretty thorough process to even get to offer stages. So we have a full planning consultant and an architect do a review of a site before we even offer on it. We then work out the offer. We obviously see what the planning consultant has got to say, if they think it's going to be achievable, what they think it's going to be achievable for. So that's kind of the first point that we've done. We then start to look at comparable data because we need to look at comparable data of near, house sales and what sales are like in the area to be able to work on our offer because we need to work out our gross development value. So we do a lot of work with that, including speaking to local agents and land agents nearby. We then work on the offer, make the offer to the landowner, and fingers crossed it gets agreed, of which this one obviously has. We then do a further kind of report on the planning policies. Even though we do an initial one to begin with, we go in a little bit more depth once we've had an offer agreed. We usually have like a 17-page document produced, just outlining the planning strategy of what we're going to be doing. And then, yeah, it's looking at pre-app and then looking into get it into planning.
Brilliant. Okay. And again, just to be clear, this is eight detached family homes is
Yeah.
what the scheme is. So in terms of the financials, the key first figure is what is the expected cost of putting this through planning, and then
Yeah.
you can just speak to the other key financial figures there.
Yeah, so we think that this overall is going to cost around about £75,000. I think that is a little bit on the higher end. I do like to be a bit pessimistic when it comes to my figures. I don't like to over egg my figures at all. I'd like to just be. I do think it would be anywhere between 60 to £75,000, but worst case scenario, £75,000. Option purchase price is at 550. So that's what we're purchasing the site for, and that's what we've offered the landowner. Our estimated land value with planning is at 775. Now, this has been looked at with a local agent. They've done a lot of work to confirm that that's what the value will be. The projected deal profit, therefore, is £225,000. The gross development value, the GDV, it sits at 3.6 million, just over. And our timeline of this is a 12-month option with the option to extend.
Okay. And again, just I think it's worth highlighting there because for people who aren't familiar with planning uplift and they're maybe used to a buy to let strategy or HMO strategy or even doing development, um, some of the returns on those involved in planning uplift for relatively minimal effort and labor in terms of time and actual pressure of trying to do development, grind up, and all the problems with it. So option price 550,000, 75,000 put into putting it through planning, which is meetings, paperwork, bringing your experience to the table in terms of strategy and decision making. But if it's a successful outcome to planning application, you've literally created £225,000 of profit stroke value for that process. Like
Yeah,
that's quite an attractive proposition in property.
yeah, and that's why I have invested in a lot of these deals myself. Um, and I have been doing that for the past several years, is because as an investor, it's an incredible return. So that's why I have been doing that myself. And I've put
Yeah,
myself in that position because it is,
yeah,
you get a brilliant return from it.
yeah. And of course, we will talk about the risk later on. So that, yes, there's big rewards potentially, but of course there is risk. But we'll definitely be covering that. Okay, so that's the main sort of high level financials. So we're having time tonight to go into this. I know you love getting into the numbers. I know you love getting through spreadsheets, which is important because it shows your attention to detail. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to curtail you tonight to say just high level. Um, the bottom figure of 775 here at the bottom,
Yeah,
of course, meets the 775 here.
yeah.
But is there anything there you want to just highlight in terms of either how that was arrived at or just some key figures?
Yeah, the key figures is that you look at the GDV, which is the top column. You can see the build rate of what we've put this at. Now, what we additionally do is add up, all of the total costs that you can see that starts with build contingency. There's £344,000 of that. That was technically within the build cost too, and that's how we arrive at the 775. Sorry. That was
Yeah.
just reading the word 775. Because you can see the developer profit, the GDV, sorry, you start the GDV minus your build cost, minus your rest of your costs, minus your developer's profit, and that's where you get to.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, if someone wanted to see this and go into all more detail, obviously it's all there. But your sort of 21%, percentage GDV, yeah, that's pretty much ballpark. Pretty much industry average, would you say?
Yeah, for a site like this, it's a fairly, straightforward site as they come. So yeah, about 20%. We've got some contingencies in there anyway.
Yeah, and the build cost on that, £155 square foot. Again, that's pretty standard. That's usually some of the
For
areas you'd go
this
to look at to see if
area.
people have been sort of not realistic on that, but 155 is very realistic in the current market.
We've got obviously got the other fees that are included, like professional fees. We've got lawyers in and lawyers out fees. This is putting ourselves in the position of the developer, as well as the sales and marketing fees. So when you add those all up, that will make the overall build cost look a little higher.
Mm,
But we've done a lot of work with speaking with local developers. My partner on this is actually a local developer to this area, and that is what he's building at.
brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So, one thing that when we were talking about this project a number of weeks ago that I was certainly impressed with was the level of research and DD you had done, not just on the site, Ella, but also on the history of planning in this particular local authority. Because for anyone who knows anything about the planning landscape currently across the country, it is an absolute lottery.
Yeah.
There are some local authorities are quite good and their processes are quick and they're transparent. Others just defy belief, both in their timing and in their responses to queries. So speak to the fact that as part of your DD, you look to see is the local authority favourable to,
Yeah.
to planning applications.
Yeah, and we did a lot of work into this council in terms of this type of development. Is there a need for this type of housing and the type of units we've gone for? You can also see that they've actually recently given permission for 67 dwellings and 12 lodges within this Wooler area. So that precedence has been set. There's also a couple of other applications you can see there. There is a real need for housing in the Wooler area, and they have been quite open with the fact that there is a need there for these type of housing.
Yeah, I mean, and the key is it's not that you or anyone can guarantee a successful outcome.
Yeah,
You're not saying that, but clearly it says on the bottom the applications that you've referred to there, and people can get these slides, go and have a look at each one of these examples that Ella's given. But these applications reflect a planning environment where a well-considered residential proposal, is more than likely going to be supported. So
yeah,
that's the key thing about the environment. But I thought that was an important factor that you're able to show and demonstrate other successful applications recently, because it does lend itself to increase the chances of a successful outcome. So again, thinking this from an educational point of view, for those on the call tonight or listening to the recording and they maybe heard of planning, but they're maybe a bit confused by it or just not exactly sure of the process. So, in terms of the call the planning strategy, how have you approached this site and what are the steps to turning it into real money?
sorry, repeat that for me. I can't,
Uh,
you cut out slightly just at the end part of
yeah.
the question.
So, like, in terms of the strategy, what are the steps of identifying a site and then bringing it through to turning it into real money, actually making a profit?
So yeah, it's the four simple steps that's on there really. We look to secure a site using option agreement, which is what we've done with this one, for example. You obtain the planning permission, With this one, it's 8 units. You then do a simultaneous exchange, which is a very important part to this strategy, which is where you find a buyer, so your house builder, your developer, your SME developer, and what you do is you do a simultaneous exchange, a back-to-back transaction, of which is where you can generate the profit from your purchaser to pay your landowner, and you take the profit in between. So you secure the site, you obtain planning, you exit to the developer, and you then get the profit.
Yeah. And in this particular one, obviously the site is secured and you're now in the middle of number two,
Hmm.
obtaining that planning.
Yeah.
That's where this particular one is at. And you have roughly how many currently in between one and four elsewhere?
Well, I've got 20, 21. 21 that are between one and four. There's
Yeah.
obviously the stage before that, which is obviously the agreement part of getting it through
Mhm.
legals and agreeing offers, which is comes before securing the site. And I've got 30 odd, I can't remember the exact number now, but 30 odd in legals that are currently been agreed with a landowner, but they're just going through the legal process to get signed and to get secured. Because, that can be a little bit complicated as well.
So how does your brain hold 21 different planning applications in your head at one time?
No, David, I really don't know. Um, uh, a good glass of wine on a Saturday night does tend to help relieve the stress. But no, I obviously have an incredible team. I'm not a one-man band. I seem to be growing every single week. Like I said, with Will, who's my head of land, he helps run the pipeline of my sites. I don't know how he keeps all 21 in his head. I do. I just about manage, but yeah, I've got an amazing team behind me,
Yeah.
that helps me with that. But yeah, good spreadsheets, David. Good
Good
spread.
spreadsheets, good spreadsheets. And what sort of number of team roughly? I know you've got some sort of internal and external, but roughly what sort of team would you be kind of have
Yeah,
on the books?
the internal team of planning consultants and architects, like I said, is growing by the day. I think we've got around about 40 power team members now, maybe
Brilliant,
just under.
brilliant. Yeah,
Um, But my team, my land team, there's now I think there's 10 of us, eight
yeah.
of us
Yeah,
that help with
no, but
different
it's sizable, and I think that is important, Ella, because planning, by the very nature of it, and again, we'll be talking about risk in a minute. That certainly you can never put all your eggs in one basket in planning.
yeah.
You need multiple planning applications because one or two may not be successful, some may be delayed. So for to have a business that's actually generating revenue and reaching the goals that you've set, you do need to have. That's why you have to have so many, if like plates spinning at once. Then that,
Exactly. Yeah, I probably would have lost my marbles a long time ago without having the team that I do.
yeah. Well, you've actually just covered some of this already in terms of your internal team, but I suppose just focus then on the external, because obviously a lot of expertise is needed to make the judgment call on whether or not this is worth a horse worth backing.
Yeah.
And therefore you have external, as you said, power team. Maybe just speak to them and why they're so important.
Yeah, we've got a couple that I'm missing on here, and I do want to shout them out too because they're incredible companies. So we've got obviously the mainland profits land team, which is myself, Georgina, Will, Sam, Georgia, Harriet. Who else have we got? I feel like I'm missing people. And there's a lot of us that work day to day on the sites that students and partners are working on, to be able to assess them. They're just the people that are looking at the sites and helping negotiate and getting them through, and then managing the pipeline. We've got Wilson Architects, which is one of our architecture firms that helps with the planning, design, and submissions. We also have got a second company that's slightly larger as well. We also work with Radleys, which are a planning slash law firm, which are brilliant with bringing in the punch when it comes to applications to make sure that we are being dealt with fairly by the council, and making sure that we have got the best team handling the council as well. If things aren't going to plan, then we will bring and sanction on board from Radley's. Um, and we've also got Clifton Ingram, which I've been working with for 11 years, on planning uplifts and on this strategy. I work with Matt Bell. He's a partner at Clifton Ingram. So yes, I've been working him for a very long time, and he helps with the back-to-back mechanism and being able to get the option agreement signed and then selling the site on the other end.
Yeah, so an experienced team that obviously has their expertise in these various niches that collectively you need to have at the table to get the right process and the right outcome for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
Um,
and then we've got you guys.
Indeed, indeed. So we look after your sort of regulation and just making sure that what you're doing lines up with current FCA regulations, which are forever tightening around those things. So obviously, you do deal with private investors. Part of your model is that you have private investors who come on and help fund some of your planning applications. And therefore, I know that you're very keen to make sure that you're doing that in a compliant way,
Yeah,
being you know a developer with integrity and an education business with integrity. So we obviously help you with that. Introduce you to some investors that are on our database, and yeah, just generally, how would you put that in it? Just another person for you to talk to about some of the business issues that may arise within the process. And we are very experienced as a team. We've done a number of planning uplifts. We've raised for and crowdfunding for planning uplift deals and things like that. So we're able to bring a bit of extra eyes and ears to your business, which is
exactly.
great. So it's been really enjoyable working with you and your team. So that's your project team rules. Absolutely brilliant. Um, so yeah, it is really important because we've talked about undoubtedly the opportunity is in planning, without question, in terms of effort, labor versus returns. That it is by far the most lucrative part of the property spectrum. However, with that goes risk, and there is that balance. So, do you want to just speak to what are some of the challenges and risks when it comes to planning uplift?
Of course, the main one that you can see there it is a planning risk. Not every planning application is guaranteed. Not any planning application is guaranteed, in fact. The risks of it being refused are there. However, that's why we do a lot of mitigation and we have the team involved, planning consultants, architects early on to make sure that we're not getting into a deal or even making offers on deals that we could potentially get refused. You've got the market risk, house prices or land values may decline. Again, this is really why we use an option agreement because, if this does happen, then we can change option agreement prices. Liquidity risk, I can never say that word. No ability to exit the investment early.
Yeah.
And you've also got the execution risk. Costs may exceed projections or the timeline may go over. Again, this is why we have extensions within the option agreements.
Yeah. And of course, some of those are relevant to any stage of the process,
Yeah,
buy-to-let development, but clearly they apply to planning as well. But obviously the big one being at the start that sometimes it absolutely can happen that for some reason the local authority decides not to grant planning. There is an appeals process that may be followed, but that's why rewards, particularly for investors into these type of projects, need to be high because there is certainly a tangible risk. What most investors tend to do, and I know part of your model, Ella, you've invested, a lot of your own personal money in a number of the projects you've done already. And even for yourself, you'd really prefer to have some money in multiple projects and then share that with private investors and put 100% into one project.
yeah,
So that's just common sense, which is why bringing other private investors to you to help you do more deals
yeah,
is the model that you operate, and that's key. You do have like risk mitigation documents. So on a particular project, if a private investor was engaging with you on a project, then you're able to send them like a detailed risk mitigation document specific to that project.
yeah.
Okay, Perfecto. Okay, so just last couple here slides for wrap up. So if anyone on wants to have a Q&A or make a comment, get it into the Q&A box. The ones that have been so far, we'll see. We'll definitely have a little bit of time maybe to ask one or two. But key milestones. So moving forward from here, you've obviously already done your exchange. So what's the key milestones on this project?
So yeah, we've obviously completed exchange that happened last year. We've been doing some work with the council and going back and forth on a bit of a pre-app on this one, and change the scheme. So we're ready to submit. We want to be submitting in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We've also got an extension on that, so we don't. I don't think it's the 10th of December. I think it goes into next year. So we'll be submitting in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then the planning submission will happen in, like I said, in hopefully April, late April. And then it's in planning, and we are waiting for the council's decision on this. It should be 3, 4 months. Should be. Is the is the comment to that. And then once we get planning, we will complete on it. We start marketing the site once we are having positive responses from the council. We then go out to market the site.
Yeah. And then obviously you've like 23 of these timelines working at any one time. So it's keeping a track on those and seeing what comes next. And yeah,
Yeah, so we're
it's just
completing
noise.
on one at the moment. We've got one in currently offers finalized this week for another one. So there will always be one getting planning at some
Yeah,
point.
which,
You know,
which is the key.
which isn't a bad
Okay,
one.
absolutely. So if someone wants to have a chat to you about learning more about investing into these type of projects, I say this is very much an education webinar. Um, on the top right of the screen, they can click the QR code and get a 15-minute call with you and have a chat and see a bit more about what you do, what your model is. You do have the education arm as well, of course.
Yes.
But obviously at the minute you are looking to engage with some private investors. In terms of those who can actually engage with you to actually invest in a project, they would need to be high net worth or sophisticated investors. And early on in that engagement, you would ask them then to designate as a high net worth sophisticated investor, certainly before you can get into the details of returns and the investment spec, etc. So that is kind of the next step for everyone that's on the call. So I'll just give you another sort of 15, 20 seconds. If you want to grab that QR code, you can reach out. As Ella was saying, she's extremely busy last couple of weeks, but there might be a couple of 15 minutes she can squeeze out of her diary to do a quick call with you. I know you always enjoy meeting new people, even just having that first interaction with people, Ella.
Yeah, no, I do. I enjoy it. So yeah, I've got some availability on that link there. It's a secret one just for you guys. With some availability that I don't usually show. So
I'll maybe book that one then because sometimes I'm looking to get talking to you and you're just
yeah.
flat out. I just it's like when are you next free? I need to talk to you. So there you are. I might book this one. I'll guarantee the
Book
15
that
minutes
link, yeah.
tomorrow. Brilliant. And then, of course, if someone does sort of do their designation and there's a conversation and it's progressing, you, of course, then have full investment packs that you can send to investors and supporting documentation, etc., on the project. So, again, anyone, by all means, reach out to Ella, have a chat here. So, literally, just wrapping up here, we might get time just for maybe two questions, but for anyone who's new on the call, what we're about in Prop Funders is very much about saving developers and you, the investor, who's probably on the call tonight, sort of saving you money by structuring, sourcing, simplifying property funding, where we can link investors in with good developers or people like Ella involved in planning uplift. Then we're very happy to make that introduction. We want to see our investors engaging, investing, and all things equal, making good returns. That's what we're about. If anyone wants a direct call with me about something, again, that's the QR code there. By all means, grab that and give me a shout, and we can have a 15-minute chat. Um, Most of you can get us through social media or through a newsletter anyway. So that is where we are in terms of finishing. I think I'll just quickly, there's a couple of questions come in there. Are there any red flags that you would see as you're looking at a site? So is there something that just jumps out that immediately would just say, no, this is just a non-starter?
Yeah, we have a lot of criteria to sites that we look at. Being in the development envelope or in the development boundary of a town, it would either have to be right outside it, abutting the settlement boundary, or inside of it, for us to consider it. We'd also we rarely look at opportunities that are green belt unless they've already got a structure on them. Again, conservation areas I find a massive red flag. They're just very complicated and complex to try and get through planning and end up being just a very high risk site to invest in. So yeah, I've got a number of them. Again, flood zones as well. They can make it very costly. They're kind of my main red flags.
Okay. Let me see another one here. Try and pick out the best ones. So obviously you do a lot of education. What are the main misconceptions you find that people have when they learn more about planning uplift? So is there anything that jumps out that are big misconceptions people tend to have?
Biggest misconceptions is like you can just go for really large open countryside land. I mean, yeah, that's probably the thing that they think, oh, right, we can just build there. Well, they've done it over there, and yeah, we'll be able to just get 15 houses here or there. There's a process. There is a process that we have to follow. There's planning guidelines. There's a national planning policy framework that we have to go through. It is more selective in land than what people probably think. There are opportunities everywhere, yes, and you have to get creative with them. But it's not just looking at open space countryside land. It can't be done.
I'm going to squeeze in one more. So why should an investor consider planning uplift as part of their investment strategy? What is it that an investor should look at when they're considering property investing?
Well, the first thing is the obvious returns that it produces. It's a high return strategy, which yes, there are risks involved, but what I've always said is it's a very educated risk, and that is the reason why I do it is because the amount of education that goes into that risk, with reports, with lots of different consultants that review it, is a very educated risk. So yeah, it's the returns, obviously.
Is the return? That's a good place to be. Risk
Yeah.
versus reward.
Yeah,
Ella, thank you very much for your time. Can I thank
that's
all those who
okay.
joined us tonight? Thank you. Really appreciate that. We'll get the recording out to those who are here on the call. And if you have any follow-up questions, by all means, just reach out to us. So, Ella, thank you very much. You can go and get that
Guys,
cup of tea, that glass of wine you were talking about,
I no,
and you can
I'm not.
relax.
I'm doing that 75-day challenge, and I've got my group Q&A with the Land Profits team in 20 minutes. So
Ah,
I'm
okay.
back to back.
Right. We'll let you go. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Ella. All the best. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.